Hello, everybody. My name is Lewis Lee, and this is Plan in Traffic. We do this every Thursday night, 9 o'clock Eastern. I got my man Ray. What's up, Ray?
Lewis, good to be here again.
Yes, sir. They come quick. Thursday
Yes.
come quick.
I had to say, I was leaving the shop today. I was like, wait a minute, what day is today? Today's Thursday. Oh, it's Thursday. Oh my God, I got to get home and get cleaned up.
That usually hits me on Wednesday. I'm like, man, it's Wednesday already?
I thought of it yesterday too, because I was going to go to the shop and a friend ended up dropping in on me who I haven't seen in a few years. And it ended up, he spent so much time I didn't go to the shop. So I'm thinking, oh, wow, now it means I got to go in Thursday and I got the show Thursday night. Like, okay, everything just got compressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm complaining, but what the hell?
So tonight's episode, I came across an article about Ford CEO Jim. I forget what his last name is.
Okay.
He came on saying that they're having a hard time finding service techs.
Okay.
And as I was going through the article and everything, and I started thinking maybe I should research a little bit. That'd be a good topic for tonight. Talking about how, I know a lot of people don't want to work anymore, so that's a problem. Then you have companies that aren't taking care of their employees right, so that's a problem. So I think it's all mixing in together where it's causing a bottleneck of lack of service guys.
It's interesting when you say that, because I know for a number of years now, it's hard. I mean, the local shops by me are always looking for guys and they can't find them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the guys coming out of a school with any kind of training, they want to go to a dealership because they just want to work with a scanner. And Brian has said this many times. McAvoy Brian has said it on the show many times. A new guy gets on the truck and he's not buying tools. He's buying sunglasses and jackets and hats. And he goes, I'll borrow the tools. I don't need that. And it's like, dude, this is going to be a profession. You're going to have to buy the stuff. Yeah, I'll worry about it later. So the new guys don't want to get dirty. They don't want to take the dirty parts off. They want to do everything nice and neat and clean.
Right.
And so that plays into a hard time finding guys to actually do real work. And but the dealership was always one of those safe places that you could go. That'd be a good job. They would usually they had benefits, time off, good pay scale,
good experience. Yep.
And you could get experience. You could move up. So to hear that model is changing now kind of bothers me, because, I mean, in a way it doesn't, because I don't have any new cars. I don't go to a dealership for service. But just in general, to see that that's happening in the industry is, not good.
Yeah. So I like to have Brian chime in on this when he comes in. Mm-hmm. But I don't take my cars to the dealer either, unless it's under warranty. And everything I have now is out of warranty. But if it wasn't for that, I would never go to a dealership, because the prices were crazy.
Right.
And the prices of the parts were double.
Yeah.
So I started researching a little bit, and I started watching other videos of mechanics and what they were saying about this whole thing. And a lot of them are saying that the flat rate model is really bad for mechanics these days.
Okay.
They're for an example, if you have a motor and it takes you 15, 20 hours, and that's what the book says, now they're starting to cut those hours down to 10. So now the mechanic has to do it in 10 hours instead of 20 hours, and still he's not getting paid any extra. He's still on the flat rate.
So I'll play devil's advocate. I know you're not the guy making the decision, but how do you tell a guy he gets half the amount of time to do? Is that a bean counter thing?
Yeah.
When they saw that most of the techs were doing it in less time, so now they just, it's kind of like there's something about when they do pricing like that. It's like on-demand pricing. And supermarkets are talking about putting in digital, like, you see the tags on everything in the supermarket, eggs, $1.99, bread, whatever. They were talking about going to these digital tags that the guy could change from the office. Like, okay, eggs now, the $1.99, bing, $2.19.
Yeah.
And it was going to be based on like time of day, time of week, time of year, demographic of who's shopping there.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't explain any of that. And I'm like, yeah, that's not good. That's
No, no, and that's what they're doing at dealerships, I believe. So when the CEO is talking about he can't find mechanics, I watched the one video that they had probably 10 different mechanics come on, and they pretty much say the same thing, that you're buying all these tools, and you got schooling,
right.
and you work yourself to death, and the only ones making money are the managers or
Right.
the higher ups, and they're not wrenching on anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got the guy down there breaking his knuckles.
Well, that was always kind of true. I mean, the service manager at a base play, from what I know, and I didn't work at a dealer, but I have friends and family who did. The service manager always made more base pay than the mechanic, but the mechanics could make it up in other ways, being more efficient in the week and in the month if they got incentives and with some overtime and whatnot. Because that service manager, service writer, kind of like a middle management position now. He's not a mechanic. He's not the owner. He's kind of that guy in the middle. And you want a guy who is good and who's trained and understands business and understands cars. I mean, I've seen some service managers who shouldn't have been service managers,
Right.
but and some of them are pretty damn good,
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, so that's frightening. I'd like to see that video. I didn't see that, but I would like to see that video.
Yeah. If I can find it, I'll send it over to you.
The thing that I want to know about, and just to divert a little, we can get back to it later. We have to talk about it now. I was seeing your posts. I had like 15 minutes to check social media today when I got home, and I saw you doing a lot of stuff with knives as topics about cutting, and I wanted to see if you had all your fingers. Like, what happened to Lewis?
No, I got him.
So I want to hear what that's about, because I didn't have time to really delve into it. I figured I got the best in the house. I'll just ask you.
So what I'm doing is I'm starting a series on the leather craft and how to do things with different tools.
Okay.
So I'm putting together a what do you call it? A chest of teachings, and
Okay.
then I'm going to have an online school where you can come in and learn how to do leather craft,
Nice.
how to use the tools, how to pick the leather, stuff like that, how to use the equipment.
Okay.
I get a lot of questions about that, so I put out some feelers to see if people would be interested in me doing an online class. And so I got good response. So I'm putting together a whole bunch of stuff like that, so I can put it all in the class.
So what was the issue with the knives and the cutting, and it looked like it could have been going bad, but I was like, I mean, I hope it's all okay.
I don't know which video that was.
It was on Instagram. You were talking about cutting, and you showed a pattern that you would cut, but like I said, I really didn't get to look at all of them, because I'm trying to check all of this stuff in a short amount of time.
I know what it is. Let me show you real quick.
Okay.
I was showing how to do tooling.
Okay.
So here's a piece that I tooled.
Okay. Very
so
nice.
What I did, I cut it out. With a knife, and then I went through with a pattern, and I bought these patterns that you can press down. You wet your leather and you press down on it.
Right.
And it will leave the marks there. Then you go in with your swivel knife, like this is a swivel knife.
Okay.
And you go through and you cut your design out, and then you go through with your tooling and hit it with the hammer.
Nice.
So that's what I was showing, how to do all that.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. A lot of people have asked me about it, so I love doing it. It's more of a hobby than a business.
Right.
And other people want to learn, so I'll teach them what I know. I might teach them the wrong stuff, but I'll show them how to do it.
Well, like everything else, I mean, you learn from somebody, but then you always adapt, and you a lot of times you change it and make it your own. A lot of stuff isn't set in concrete where it only has to be done one way.
Right. Especially this. I mean, you can do it all types of.
Yeah. I like pinstriping, stuff like that. I mean, one guy may follow a convention, do it this way, but another guy does it a different way, and he gets the same result. So that's when your artistic ability has to come in and kind of take over. Got to save you. Nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful medium. I love everything about it, like the different leathers and different things you can do with it. I mean, you can get really creative.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's good. Yeah, definitely.
So I got let's see, I want to pull up this thing from Ford. So
Okay.
here's
Jim Farley. Okay.
yeah. So here he's talking about wait, I can't see it. Let's see. All right.
The upkeep of their cars.
So here's what he's saying, that the home mechanic is not going to be able to work on these cars anymore.
Right.
These new cars, which we talked about this in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. If people stop going to school to become a tech, and then you can't work on your cars at home, that's going to be like a double whammy towards the industry, I think, because you know, a lot of mechanics I know that work at dealerships, they started out working on cars at the house.
Oh yeah.
You know, they didn't go to school, but they're a heck of a mechanic.
Sure.
Now, if you don't know how to use those scanners and that kind of stuff, you're gonna be out of luck.
That's very true. You know, I can give you a quick story. I have a friend who's guy's been a body man since he's 13. I mean, now he's like 62. Learned it in the driveway, did it in back alleys, and then, you know, and eventually he ended up working at shops. And he's a good guy. He's a great body man. He can do anything from heavy work, and he's a painter, so he could go from cradle to grave with a car. But he is a bit of a, actually his nickname and his email address is, you know, TJ Caveman. He is a bit of a caveman sometimes. So like you look at the tools, I have a picture of the tools that were in his toolbox. Like, he has like different rocks and pieces of wood that he gets into, you know, because when he couldn't afford to buy tools, he would make whatever he had to, you know, use. So, but like I said, he can paint a car like it's beautiful. The guy is a very good painter. But and he's always been a little bit of a mechanic, you know, tinkerer and whatever. He would always handle his own stuff. But now with the newer stuff, I mean, he just never, like, he can handle a code reader and maybe the very basics of a scanner. But like most people, he'll read the scanner, and if it tells him you have an O2 code, he'll say, "Up, I need an O2 sensor." And that doesn't mean you need an O2 sensor. It means you have an O2 code. What caused it? He doesn't have the diagnostic background.
Right.
Guy's a body man and a painter. So he's gotten into trouble a few times, and most recently, he bought a Dodge Durango for his son and daughter-in-law, and it was running fine. Everything was great. And then all of a sudden they bring it to him. It's running like crap. There was some kind of, I don't remember what the initial issue was, but he's working on it and he couldn't fix it. He got me and my friend Kevin in a group text a couple of weeks ago. And he was saying, "I got one of those parasite drains." I said, "You mean a parasitic drain?" "Oh yeah, that's what it is." Body man. So, and he says, "I'm trying to find it, but I can't find it. I put the meter in line with the battery." And we were questioning him, and he sends a picture, and right away I spotted, I said, "TJ, the meter is on DC volts. If a meter is in series with a battery cable, you need to be in the amperage scale. A drain is an amperage drain, not a, you can have a voltage drop, but an amperage drain." I said, and we went back and forth. I swear, I don't know how many texts went back and forth of like, "Put it on the A scale," you know, and but I got it in there and it's reading the 13. Because that's what he said. He said he was getting like some like 13 or 13.5, where I'm like, dude, that's a huge, I'm thinking amperage. I'm like, that's an appreciable drain. But no, he was seeing 13 volts. So anyway, he wasn't getting it. And then Kevin and I talked between ourselves, realized like, this isn't the guy who should be doing electrical work. So I did a little bit of research, and from what I've seen on cars in the shop that I worked on, and I'm not an expert in this either, the Chryslers use what's called the TIPM. It's a totally integrated power module, and it sits off the battery, goes down the side, and it's got a bunch of relays and heavy fuses and circuitry on it, and it controls everything.
Right.
And I know they go bad frequently. guys change them often, and it's usually one of the first things that, like if your lights or I had a van come in. My guy at the shop, his best friend had a minivan. He says, "Yeah, you know what? He wants you to change the fuel pump," and he had a fuel pump and sending unit because the fuel gauge isn't working. I'm like, "Well, how do you know How do you know that that's the problem?" Well, because they did this, and some other stuff, and didn't solve it. So it's got to be the fuel pump. I said,
Right.
I think it could be the TIPM because they controls dash circuit, controls fuel, it controls all that stuff. I said, let me see if I can find a diagnostic. No, they're leaving like tomorrow afternoon. He needs it done today. And I said, all right, I'm going on record that I don't think that's the problem. And, you're going to pay me to fix this and it ain't going to fix it. Just do it. So as they stood and watched, I dropped the tank, changed it, powered the thing up, and the gas gauge didn't work. And I said, okay, now what? Guess I'm driving to Florida without a gas gauge. I'm like, yeah, guess you are, because you know what? I checked your old sending unit. It works. The pump worked. Well, we knew the pump worked. I said the problem is we did that. The guy did that TIP thing once before. I'm like, doesn't just mean it has to go bad once.
Right.
Where'd you get a new one? No, we got one out of a junk car. I'm like, okay, there you go. I said, people just, they don't see.
Yeah.
So I'm telling that to TJ, and I said, I don't know because I'm not diagnosing the vehicle. I said, but it's a good bet. That's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other end, you do need a factory scan tool to reset things and all, which I don't have. So he played around with it. He got back to me this week. He was just going to try. Now, he did change the TIPM. I think he got a used one. And now the truck doesn't start, doesn't crank. I'm like, okay. I said, do you see the problem rolling up here? I said, maybe that was the problem with that board from the last vehicle. So I gave him a number of a guy who's a mobile tech who was worked with my buddy Joe, who was my co-host a few years ago. I said, this guy knows his stuff, and he's got the factory scan tools. I said, he'll come to your house. I said, it ain't going to be cheap. He's going to charge you. I said, but he's going to fix it. I said, and I was talking to my buddy Kevin about this. I said, well, he asked us to come out and help him. And I said, you realize that's like asking two dentists to come and help you do open heart surgery.
Yeah.
Said, yeah, we know electric and we know diagnostics, but we don't know that specifically. And I wouldn't even put my hands on it without knowing,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this is how people think. And there might have been a reason I was telling you this. Sure there was a reason I was telling you this story. Now I can't remember what it was.
That it's getting hard to diagnose your own car.
Well, that too. Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And, you do need those, the scan tools are good, but there's always that other top tier, which is factory scan tool. And I know a lot of shops don't ever buy those tools because they're very expensive, but one shop may have a GM tool, another shop may have a Chrysler tool. And what they do is if they have a good relationship, they'll lend them to each other, when they have a job. But I mean, the days of working on your own car, unfortunately, are, going to be gone. But that's the Right to Repair Act. We've been talking about that for years. And, I think we're going to get Carl Anthony back because I'm sure I was just going to reach out to him to get him on my show on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I got a feeling he'll know about this being in Detroit and all. I got a feeling he'll have an angle. So I'll talk to him and I'll see if we can get him on.
Yeah. Because it's coming, man. We're going to be in trouble real quick.
Yeah.
Especially with AI, and they're putting AI in the cars. That's going to run a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Scary. Yep. Yeah, my new phone. We left the diner the other day, and I was with my wife, and I said something. Oh, I forget what. I don't even remember. I said something about something, and my phone talks back to me. Well, if you're looking for that, I was like, and I start cursing at the phone. Shut up, you motherfucker! I mean, I went Samuel Jackson on it. I'm gonna kick your ass through you out the front window if you don't shut up. I hope the phone got scared.
Yeah, I was listening to you.
Man, I was like, like right. Do a bad lieutenant on him.
So let's get the fellas in and see what they're thinking about. Right.
Good idea.
Hey.
Hello.
Guys.
What's happening?
Hey guys.
Another Thursday, baby.
Yep.
So I'm sure you guys heard we're talking about the how difficult it's starting to become to fix your own car. Not you, Paul, because you got the old school joint.
Right.
But man, these new cars are getting rough.
It was a double-edged sword. Thinking back through my career and the turning points in my career to keep going towards the archaic, referred to back then by a mentor of mine as dinosaurs. Don't go the way of the dinosaur. You got to stay on top of all this technology, and he's trying to cram it down my throat. And a lot of the early analog computers, if that's even a term, analog computer, the early electronic control devices that were in the cars in the 80s.
Right.
Keys in the ignition, your lights are on, memory cards being told back to you, early computerized fuel injection. Yeah, I do know that stuff because I lived it.
Mm-hmm.
It's what the technology was being introduced as I was starting my career. But the old stuff always drew my attention. I knew there would always be a reason to have somebody like me, because of car collectors and just the historical part of a 57 Chevrolet. I always thought would be an iconic collector car that you can't give away now.
Yeah.
I didn't evolve with the times, but I think there's enough work for the rest of my career still. But once all this new stuff is in place, and the man came up the other day, and I can't remember his name. I thought I'd remember his name by now, but he was out of a Ferrari dealership in Southern California, and he was doing some computer programs, and he was involved with the smart cars and early smart car technology, and how like a radio from one smart car couldn't go into another smart car without it having to reflash the computers because everything had to talk to each other and everything had its own IP number. And
well, they did a lot of that for theft.
Yeah, okay, I can see the reasoning for theft, but isn't that also the start of being able to work on your own car if I want to change the radio?
Yep.
If I want to, there's a lot of it, but that's the early technology of where we are today.
Well, yeah, and to your point, Paul, like you said earlier, when the guy was trying to cram the new stuff down your throat, yeah, because to be in a shop and be current, you need to know it. And if you want to be that kind of a mechanic, you do need to know it, but you don't have to be. And luckily in this industry, you never really had to be, because you could find your niche and capitalize on it. Like you did. I mean, I work on some newer stuff too.
I don't know if I can capitalize on it, but I did find a niche.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I work on newer stuff, but not like at a dealer level. I like to, and I tend to work on older cars because that's, like you said, that's what I know. That's what I'm good at. And like you said, there is still enough work for all of us right now in our lifetimes, I think. After that, I've come across so many younger guys in the shops that look at what I'm doing and like, what are you doing? Like, I'm just in the points. How do you know how to do that? Like, well, I didn't read the book. I mean, I did eventually, but then you get into a whole discussion of and I did a carburetor for another shop and brought it in, and I had the young guy come over who was putting on a car and said, "Wow, you're the guy that does this? You know how to adjust these, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He says, "Can you tell me how to do it?" And I said, "I'll come down and I'll show you." And I said to him, in a nutshell, let's just get it out. It's the analog version of what you learned. It's the analog version of the computer. Mm-hmm. The computer does it for you based on the sensory input. I said, you're the computer. And once you set it, that's where it stays until you change it or until something else changes. And then you go back and you reset it again. Yep. He goes, wow. I said, yeah, we've come a long way with cars. We really have. But, they kind of skipped over that in their training somehow.
They don't teach that anymore.
No, I know.
No, they don't teach anything about how to think for yourself and to actually become one with the machine so they can talk to you. But what what I did not do, because I did not continue to go with the newer technologies, basically ending when OBD2 was introduced in the early 90s or mid 90s. That technology I don't understand, but there's some of that technology that's over in Europe. I did understand. I don't know why, other than it's still kind of that analog thing. Um, but the tools, um, back then, you had to go in debt for like 10 grand to buy a Snap-on scanner, and those Snap-on brick scanners today are worth $100.
I have what is it, a Brainiac 2000? Was that the name of it? I got one. It's a big red LED display from the 80s. I used to use it on the 80s cars with a big coiled cord on it. I have one. I have one of those out in the toolbox in the garage. It's
It had different cartridges and
yeah,
different little chip
yeah.
keys,
It was
and
like a Game Boy, right, right. But
So
yeah.
Brian, we started out the show tonight with talking about Ford, how they had an announcement that they can't find techs. You being a person that's in the shops a lot, are you hearing that from the tech side that they're not getting enough hours to finish the job, and it's cutting into their pay? Like, you know what I mean? Like they're
Oh yeah, I mean it's a double-edged sword.
mhm.
I mean, they say there's not enough techs. Well, there's a lot of techs, but the problem is that when you cut up their time and they can't make money
Right.
for their job, they move on. And like I said, I have, it was funny. The other in my area, they use Uber Eats deliveries to deliver parts. Okay, the part stores don't have people that work for them. Like when I worked at the auto parts store, and they say, "Hey, Brian, run this down to Sam's garage
Yeah.
because they need this." And you said, "Okay," and you jumped in the old car. If the pickup truck was out on a run, you jumped in your car, you drove over to Sam's garage, and you dropped the part off. Well, they don't have that here, or they utilize Uber Eats. So you have guys that are delivering parts to shops that don't even know what parts are or what they're just looking for the money. To make a long story short, I'm walking into a shop, and one of my customers, or was a customer, that has been missing for a while, he's walking out, and I was like, "Hey, you over here now?" He goes, "No, I deliver parts." He works for Uber Eats, and he's delivering parts to a shop. And I was like, "Hey, I haven't seen you," but that's where it's gone. Like I said, the Ford guys joke and they laugh about what the Ford president said about there's not work. They all sit there and say, "There's plenty of us here." It's just that when you cut up the times, when being in this industry or a technician in this industry, you're required to spend a lot of money for tools.
Yeah.
And they want you, that's why I have a hard time sometimes, because you have a shop owner saying, "Man, this guy needs tools, or he needs to buy the update in that software for that computer." Well, that's $1,200 that guy has to put out, and the boss man's making 85% of the money.
Right. And
then they bitch and complain that they can't find anybody to work. And I'm like, "Well, dude, you want the guy to spend $1,200 to update his scanner to work on these cars for you. And then on top of that, you're making 85% of the money.
Brian, what do you think
And
about
that's
what do you think about
Huh?
what Lewis was saying in that article in the video where they were saying a certain job would take 2 hours, now they're bringing it down to 1 hour.
Right. They do that.
Yes.
I mean, how do you
That's been the
half the-
standard
I
for
mean, I
you-
understand.
that's-
I
Yeah.
understand. We talked about efficiency and all that, but to half it, I mean, usually people aren't that efficient.
All right,
No,
well,
I
hold
mean,
on.
I used to hate when I was at the Porsche dealership because we had this one job. It was a killer job. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was insane because it paid something like 15 hours,
Wow.
and I could do 2 a day, because I had just gotten my rhythm, the speed, and you had the rhythm going. And it was almost 2 of them a day. It was, the second one went over to the next day. But the craziest part is that we would go to training session, and of course everybody in the from different dealerships, different areas, were all at school. And you always had the guy that had to be swinging the biggest bat around. He goes, "Oh, I could do that in X amount of time, and I can make X amount of money." Well, when you're the fox in the hen's house, you don't tell them that you can beat the time.
Right. No,
Right.
no.
Because it never failed, because 2 weeks after school, the time changed.
Mm-hmm.
And it got less and less. And finally, that job got down to something like 6.5 hours, from 15 to 6.
So everybody else had to come up because you were good.
Well, like I said, they did the test. They had a guy that they took the time and they did it, and you can eventually work on that. But again, it's kind of like these insurance companies getting involved in the repair. The insurance company tells you, you want to go through, you go, "Oh, I want to go through insurance." Well, they say, "Oh, well, they're going through insurance. Now you got to cut our rate because we're special and you're supposed to pay us. We don't pay the full amount."
Right.
And it's like, well, I don't work for the insurance company.
Right.
Dude, if you want to give it away, that's fine. You take the hit.
Right.
But, I got a family to feed.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just trickles down to the point where, and then you get to the point where you say, "I'm not going to do it." And then you go drive for Uber Eats and you deliver parts.
How many
So
years?
we all buy old cars and screw it.
How many years have mechanics been fighting the labor guides and labor manuals?
Forever.
Well,
Even when I was turning wrenches for a living, way back in the in the '90s,
I can think back well over 40 years.
there were issues with that, and which is always, some of the shops that I've dealt with through the years have had they'd give you the option. They go, we can do this by the book, or we can do this by the job. And it seems like the shops that always did the work by the job, they usually seem to hang around a lot longer, because when you're standing there trying to talk to Miss Martha Jane, that the book says it's 10 hours to put a water pump on her Cadillac, and yet you can do it in an hour and a half. And there's always
I mean, they had the guys, like I said, I always thought it was funny because they would say, you gotta skate around a little bit because, we're charging this guy X amount of time and you're getting it done sooner. And there were people that they didn't care. They just wanted the job done. They didn't care how long it took. It's just, they just want it done. They want it done right and out the door. But the bottom line with all of this, it doesn't matter, because I've worked for flat rate, I've worked for salary, I've worked for partial, I've had multiple different pay scales. And at the end of the day, the biggest problem in this development or in this environment is that the guy has to pay so much for tools and to invest in himself, and the person that's running the business takes advantage of that, and that guy finally just had enough. And they, like you said, you want me to now do it for less time and still make money. I used to hate that. Brian, we love you, but we need more out of you. What do you mean you need more out of me, dude? I'm here 25 hours out of the 24.
Mhm.
All right, so
And
now check
just-
this out. When we're in the dealership settings, or even in the independent shop settings, if you're being paid flat rate and you're by the book time, and that job pays 2 hours, and it takes me a half an hour to go out and find it in the parking lot and get the car
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah.
Now I've gotten the wheels off, I got the brakes apart, but it's into the afternoon before the parts house gets me my supplies because the service advisor is behind in his job and hadn't ordered the correct parts yet. Comes back, blames it on the technician, going, "You didn't give me the right information." Now the lift is tied up all day long for a 2-hour brake job that I only make 2 hours on, but I'm there all 8.
Mhm.
No, I mean it's a no-win situation. I mean, I've had some really good pay periods. I mean, pay scales with it. I've had some real shitty ones. But at the end of the day, is they pay you less for your knowledge, and that's the problem. The guys
Yeah.
get to a certain point, and I used to hate when I used to go in for my review, and they would say, "Brian, we love you. You're less than 1% comeback. You fix everything." I was ranked, nationally with Porsche. I was ranked high up there. We love you. It's great, but we can't pay you any more money. And my whole stupidity, the way my system works, is if I make more money, you make a shit ton more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're telling me I make too much. That means you make too much.
They just don't want to give it to you.
So, again, and I hate, and like I said, most of you guys know that I hate the whole thing about being about money, but it's about money.
Well, yeah.
And you can't, you're not going to find. I still miss it. I still get, there's times I get just as dirty, or I work on a car when I walk into a shop because I miss working on a car.
Do you?
I still miss it to this day. But the bottom line is,
Well, I got a whole bunch of junk if you ever want to come work on some stuff.
I got a whole bunch of junk too. Don't worry. I mean, but I'm just saying in general, I miss working on a car.
Well, to what you were saying before, that's why a lot of guys end up leaving the dealership model and going into an independent shop, because now it's a different model. And I know some shops that guys run their shop like a dealership. It's a very close to a dealership model, but a lot of them don't. And a guy can, usually a lot of times do a little better in that independent shop.
Yeah. And then, you get into the whole dynamics. It's like, okay, well, go own your own shop. I love when I hear guys say this. I hear this a dozen times.
Yeah.
I'm going to go open my own shop. Good luck, bud.
My wife and I were just talking today about, it was a big conversation, but we're talking about, kids, younger people not being able to buy a house, especially in our area, because prices went ridiculous. Yeah. And I said, as long as I've been around, I've always heard that the adage, which is true, the difference between a renter and an owner is the down payment. I knew plenty of people who could pay the monthly mortgage, but they didn't have a down payment. They didn't have that lump of money. And it's as true today as it ever was. The same thing with the shop. Yeah, I could go say, I'm going to go open a shop. You have any idea what it costs to open? A friend of mine just sent me a link a couple of weeks ago to a station that's near me. It was a Hess station going out. It was a 6-bay shop, parking for like 30 cars. The guy's saying, it's got the ability to bring in like, I forget how many thousands of dollars a day. And he wanted to go in on this, And I said, really? I said, we go in on this. I'm like, well, who's working on the cars? I said, I know you're looking at me. I said, but one guy in a 6-bay shop. No, you need 6 techs. I said, well, you need 6 guys ready to go. Like that would be good if you had a shop that was needed to move up and expand, and they could just move everything in and hit the ground running on Monday. I said, but dude, that ain't gonna happen.
That's crazy. I mean, I got, like you said, the property alone, and on top of that, half these guys don't even realize the aggravation you have with the city, the council, or the government in the area. They don't want the stuff here. This is the most amazing part, or the most craziest part when I talk about any of this stuff. They don't want any of this stuff around. And I when I see our local little politicians at our Burton's Day Parade Day and Olney Day, and I always ask them, I said, where do you get your car fixed?
Yeah.
And they look at it, stops them right smack dab. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, your idea is to wipe out half of the shops that repair cars. What are you going to get your car repaired?
Well, I got a county car, so I just give it to the guy's garage.
It's just like I said. I mean, there's one other question I always ask. I always ask a guy, how much does a gallon of milk cost?
They don't know.
And they don't know. And they're like, well, what's that question? I said, that's the question that us as people out here wonder if we're going to be able to feed our kids.
Right.
Brian,
and I love it. They all close the shops up, and then people say, well, where am I supposed to get my car fixed?
Yep.
Brian, it's that old saying, NIMBY.
Right.
They don't want it in their backyard.
They invented that where I live. Jeez, you kidding me?
They don't. You get down. Bust down to the rock layer there, and they'll go, yes, there's a need, but they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear. They don't want to see it. They know. It's like what's the old sausage?
We all love sausage. You just don't want to see
it made. Nobody wants to. And unfortunately, you don't get A without B.
Let's go back about 40 years in time into the mid 80s. In every city, in every town, every gas station had service bays.
Yep.
We go back 20 years. Those gas stations are still there.
Yeah.
But they're no longer service bays, they're convenience stores.
Convenience stores, exactly.
Because they couldn't afford the insurance that was applied for. It was
that's a big part of it.
Store than having the liability. That's another thing. Nobody wants the liability.
Right.
So you're absolutely right, Paul. I mean, this
is what we witnessed in our lifetime.
Yep. That's right.
There's a flip side, Brian, to the liability aspect, and Ray. Count the lawyers' billboards. We sue, we sue, we sue, we sue, we sue.
Right.
Yeah. Now, and where does all that liability come back? I've been screaming for 30 plus years that they need to do tort reform in this country.
Yeah.
And who's the biggest contributor to the Republicans and dummy rats? The lawyers.
Well, of course, because they're standing before the judges.
They're the ones that are paying both sides, the Republicans and the Dems.
Sure.
They're shoveling them money, going, "Hey, forget tort reform."
Because most of the politicians are lawyers. First of all, so
yeah, everybody in their family is.
Yeah.
See, people get upset around here. Lewis, you've been to the area where I live, so you understand. You were here last year at this time.
Yeah. And
small town community, they are up in arms about the new data center coming in.
Oh yeah.
And they're doing everything they can. I'm like,
yeah.
You're not stopping this. The only one who's going to win here is the law firms. The law firms on all sides are the ones that are profiting. Because there's nothing criminal happening. This is all civil suits. Means nothing but more money, more money, more money. And every time they're increasing money fees, every time there's something happens, it goes through the lawyer's hands. Yep. It's the law firms. I want to invest in the law firm, not the data center.
Yeah.
They probably won't let you. But that's a big thing here too. It's been a big topic for a while now, and they want to put these data centers in. And really, it's because of the batteries. That's what everybody's, squawking about. It's all lithium-ion stuff, and if there ever is a breach, it's going to be nasty. But
Yeah, well,
I look at it the other way. The data centers themselves are bad. So because of what they're culling, that's all the AI stuff that they're putting in.
Yep. But like
Well,
you said,
how
Paul, you
else are they
can't fight
going to
it.
store the data from the flock cameras?
Right, but Lewis, you got to go back to the 60s and not like the Democrats that are out there now, kumbaya with a tambourine and they're every fuck them. No. The idea is if you don't fight it, then it's like if you don't vote, don't complain. You have to fight it. Even if you think you're not going to win, people have to speak up and say something. The word has to get out there. And yeah, you may be shoveling shit against the tide, but if you don't, you might as well just lay down and cover yourself with sod now. I know it's a losing battle most of the times, but
well, see, with the data centers, AI is coming so strong, and that's what I mean by we can't stop it because it's in everything. It's in our cars, it's in our phones, it's in our.
My phone was talking to me today, and I was cursing at it.
Yeah, it's in. My son sells self checkout.
Okay.
He don't sell them, but he works for the company that builds them.
Right.
And it's AI is in everything, and it has to run through those data centers. And it's
sure.
And it starts with the lawyers all the way to the grocery store. Everybody's dealing with it, and that's why it's gonna be hard to fight these data centers because
and unfortunately, the plan or the project will go on after you're dead.
Yeah, for sure.
So they will sit on it and wait. That's just no difference than down the street from here. There was a little gas station that I tried multiple times to get involved with, to have as my repair place. And, of course, previously the guy upset the county and they said there will never, ever be another automotive place in there. And it sat empty for 30 plus years.
Wow.
And until everybody died that had anything to do with that property. And then some dude came in, built a 7-Eleven, and has 16 pumps of fuel sitting on there.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's Paul. You know this
place.
Where
you're talking. Yeah.
Paul, you know exactly where I'm talking.
Yes,
Behind the fire. Well, this is another place behind the firehouse in Kensington.
In the gasoline alley?
Gasoline alley. There's been a sign up there for the last 5 before COVID. So we're talking over 6 years of all that stuff being wiped out and gone back there.
Hold that. Well, keep going talking amongst yourself. I'll be back in 3 minutes.
But, like I said, they put the plan out there. They put the bug in there, and then they just let it sit and go. And they'll take it eventually. They'll eventually get it. And unfortunately, their idea, I just lost a Ford dealership because of this. Their idea of this is to build a town center. They want you to take public transportation.
Yeah.
They're going to build. They're going to say, well, here's a place to buy food. Here's a place to buy clothes. Here's the place to hang out on a Friday night and drink. Mm-hmm. And your apartment's up above it. And you're supposed to stay within this group. I got a kid. I cannot believe this. I got a kid that when he goes and sees his parents, because he tried to keep a car down in the city and had no place to park, and he eventually got rid of the car. To go see his mom and dad, he has to get on the metro and spend the 1.5 or 2.5 hours of juggling around to go, which would normally take him 20 minutes to drive to go see his mom and dad.
Wow.
So this is what they want, and this is what they're going to get. And, this kind of, I know we veered off from the repair part of it, but these manufacturers just like when the government stepped in and said, okay, we're going to have OBD2 and everybody has to comply. So you have your work to write on a car. Well, then the manufacturer went one step further. They made their own part of OBD. Okay, they said, well, we offer it. We offer OBD2 Global. It tells you, but it may not be more as exact or more pinpoint. We just developed into our own system.
Yeah.
And then that's how it, like I said, these scanners are completely insane now, cost wise, and to get in. And, you know, they make it so instead of just finding, remember the old days? We counted the lights, you knew the code, you went to a book, it told you, hey, this is where you need. It wasn't to tell you what was wrong with the car. It told you what you need to look at on the car.
Right. Exactly. It's always been that way. Yeah.
I know that, but most guys, I get this all day long. Your scanner's broken. Why is my scanner broken? Well, it told me I needed an oxygen sensor, and I put one on, and it came back with the same code. Right. No, dude, it told you to check, and you need to break it down from there to see what caused that problem.
Yeah.
And, you know, then, of course, now, like you said, I got a guy now. He's in a dilemma. He's got a scanner. He needs to buy an update for his scanner. It's $1,200.
Yeah.
He ain't making the hours. So he goes and tells the boss, and the boss is like, well, why do I need to pay? It's your tool. Well, you use my tool. Again, this is the problem. When the guy makes it, you know, I you know, like I said, you know, most labor rate around my area is over $200 an hour, which is absolutely insane. And most technicians are making $25 to $30 an hour off of that. And then you tell them you're going to cut your time.
Jeez.
Do it faster.
And then the problem of it is that if you say, okay, we're going to pay you a salary, then the guy sits on his phone all day and doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, hey, man, I got all this work out here. Oh, well, you know, if I was flat rate, I would make more money. But, you know, you were flat rate and you were upset when I didn't have the work.
Right.
So I put you salary. Now you just want to sit here.
Right.
Double-edged sword, like you said.
Yeah.
Do you have a copy, Brian?
No.
Get yourself a copy.
Yeah.
Gasoline Alley.
Yeah. I mean, Gasoline Alley is a major part of the history.
Gasoline Alley was my summer camp. Dad had his shop in Gasoline Alley in the early 70s. So Satan Cycles and everything that went along with it back then, and then Ed Miller moved Satan Cycles up to Rockville and then changed the name to MDO.
But, you know, unfortunately, they wanted to redevelop and they want that out of there. And I, you know, it's funny when you say, hey, when did that sign show up? What sign? And you tell them and they're like, holy crap, I don't know. And that thing's been sitting there and they'll just sit on it. They plant the seed. And the biggest problem, actually, because I see it all the time, is that the person that owns the land, and they're all at the age now here where they're passing on to their kids, and their kids never had to work for it or understand.
And don't want it.
Some development comes by and says, hey, I will give you X amount of money for that. And they don't want the aggravation. They don't want the headache. And they say, no problem. And they take the cash out.
Take the cash.
And it's done.
Nice to have an inheritance.
But the funny part is usually about a couple of years down the road, you see the guy, if he didn't invest correctly or take the money and do what he was supposed to, he's looking for a job because he doesn't have the money he had anymore. Yep. And it's like, well, that's why, like, if you listen to your old man or your mom that was running the place, that was the income. That's where the money came for you guys to live the way you did.
So in 1990, 1992, somewhere in there, 216 and 29. It was an at-grade crossing back then. Didn't have all the traffic circles back then. Allied Trailer had about 10 acres on that corner, and on the other corner was a park and ride parking lot, commuter bus lot. That 10 acres where Allied Trailers is all developed now. I think there's a bank and a Dunkin' Donuts or something in there. I had the chance to buy that, but the land was so contaminated. EPA, you'd be on the hook with EPA, so we didn't buy the land. Now I wish I had.
Yeah. That's another big problem. I think it, oddly enough, of course, I only know, there's three sides to the story, right?
Yep.
There's three sides, and I hear one side. I hear a strong side. I read the middle part, and who knows? But that's like the Ford dealership I just lost. They were trying to find a place for them, and one of the land swap deals that they came up with was where the old Vitro buildings were in Aspen Hill. Paul knows where this stuff I'm talking about. And they went in there, and then they said, "Oh, wait a minute. You got to keep the old building, historical site looking. You got to so you had to redo your plans to do that." They say, "Okay." They do this. Then they say, "Oh, by the way, it's contaminated. It's going to be 7 to 10 years before it's ready to be built, done on." And they say, "Well, we don't have that. We're out of here." So they changed. They do another land swap thing around. Somebody got paid. Like I said, I don't know the full story. I may never know the full story, but this is what I'm hearing. But I just think it's ironic.
Got paid.
Huh? Well, yeah.
The lawyers got paid.
But at the end of the day, because they weren't supposed to touch this building, that Pfizer Permanente got the land, and within 6 months, the building was wiped out, graded, and the grass was planted.
Yep.
Where they dragged the automotive guy through the mud.
Funny how that happens.
And you're telling me this is why people wonder why people get, climb the Texas Tower and start shooting. They wonder why people have a bad taste with government. People wonder, you got a guy that's trying to do something, you throw constant roadblocks up, and then somebody with money comes along.
The same thing happened, Brian. If I look outside my basement window right here, I had a piece of property next to my house that went to the next block. I don't know how deep it was. I'm going to guess maybe, I don't know, 70, 80 feet it went from a block to block. So it was 70, 80 feet by a couple hundred. And I just wanted to buy the piece that was next to my house. It was all trees. And I wanted to build a garage over there. And I was told, the town told me, "Oh no, that land can never be sold because on the other side of me is the Long Island Railroad." And they said the railroad actually owns the property. They'd used it back when they were building a railroad in the 50s. And there's some gas lines under there, and there's some other stuff in there, and it can't be built on. And I heard this a number of times. I said, "Oh shit, that sucks." Well, in the 90s, all of a sudden I start seeing the trees being cleared. And what happens is 4 houses put up there on that track, one next to me, one across the street, and then one on the other corners. Mm-hmm. And I started asking questions and found out, well, yeah, the contractor, first of all, it didn't fit the minimum plot size for the area, but he got an easement. So when the right hands were greased and the money flowed the right way, all of a sudden, hey, now it can be built on. What do you know? Because now the guy's giving them 4 houses, not just giving up one piece of land that I wanted. So
tax payment too.
Yeah, and there's 4 tax bases, which is heavy around here where I am. And so it just goes to show you, it's just local government, and the little guy doesn't win. The guys with the money win.
Yeah.
So
This is
We-
called the golden rule. He with the gold gets to make his new rule.
yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much right. Exactly right. That's what
Well,
happened.
I think it's ironic. Paul will know where this place is. Right inside the Beltway, down in Montgomery Hills, Montgomery Hills, right inside on Georgia Avenue.
Yeah.
I had a gas station there. I had a Shell gas station. It's right across where,
The Shell was on the right hand side as you were going into town.
yeah.
Amica was on the other corner.
You had Cover's
G&G
Amico and you
Golf.
had Rock. Yeah, the right. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So, where the Amico is or was, they came in and they put a Royal Farm in, and that drove everybody else, basically all the other gas stations, out of business because everybody was scared. This Royal Farm, this guy's coming in, we can't compete with the gas prices. So the place on the Shell station, they sell the Shell station. They had a little bit of a fight with the guy with the car wash right next to it, right? And the guy in the car wash tried to fight, ran out of money. Again, you got a machine that's 24/7. Unfortunately, a little guy is not 24/7,
Right.
and he will run out of money. You know, that's the bottom line. They play around. So the car wash is torn down. There was a sign there. Something was supposed to be built. I can't remember. Maybe I can go back and look through some pictures. All of a sudden, there's a fence put up around this area. And there used to be a Staples there or a A&P or whatever. And there's
it was a Safeway grocery store.
Safeway, right, back there on the back side of this. But the center section, it came up, and I guess this is the way they stopped the movement. Historical site of a church with a cemetery.
Yeah.
And they say cemetery preserving remains.
Yep.
And it was I can't think of the name of the church. Shit. It's a black church.
AME,
Zine. No, what was it?
an AME.
I don't know. I'll have to look at the picture. But I think it's ironic that gas station and that car wash were built. They were there back there in the late 50s,
Yes.
early 60s. So they built on top of this cemetery where
Yes.
bodies were built.
Yes.
But now it's a big no-no, and now that's the redesign that, because they were supposed to redesign the Georgia Avenue and the Beltway entry and so forth. But I just thought that, I mean, like I said, I guess that's the final straw. I mean, that's the way you're going to prevent them. Of course, they'll sit on that, I guess, until everybody on that committee dies and nobody cares anymore. And they'll eventually get what they want. But it's amazing, though, that if they want it, they're going to take it.
The adult bookstore still there?
I don't know, Paul. Yeah, some things just don't change in the dark, in the hour of darkness. So, but again, it's just unfortunately. But the bottom line of the system of what we talked about is that you're not going to keep workers, or nobody wants to get in this when you gotta dump so much money to invest in yourself. Nobody's going to do that anymore.
Well, let me ask you this, because you're the guy that's actually out there supplying the tools. If I just came out of trade school and I've been given some purchasing power, and I come to you and I say, I need to spend my money very wisely. What are the basics going to cost me? Am I looking at 10 grand nowadays just to get my feet wet and to have enough basic tools to be that apprentice technician?
You're looking. I mean, it's seeing again that
No
it's
box, just tools.
yeah. That's a hard. That's a hard question. I tell guys. I tell guys a lot of time because this is where they get in trouble. Is when they start out. I always tell them. I said, look, you want to start buying. You want to buy the tools that you are using right now. When you go over to Paul's toolbox and say, I need to borrow this pair of pliers or this thing, these are things you want to buy. But I catch the guys all the time because they did one job one time where they needed a $900 tool. They buy that tool and they may not touch it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And they got their money tied up in a tool. But I tell them, how many times did you use that tool? Well, the one time. I said, then, dude, it's not time to buy that tool yet. You need to buy the tools that you use every day and build from that. And that's the hard part. Now, unfortunately, it's going to be very hard to find a guy like me to tell that, because most of these guys driving around in these trucks, they don't get called the rape vehicle for nothing. Because when the guy walks in there and sees a new guy, dude, you need all this, and he leaves there with a $5,000 worth of stuff that he may only use once or twice. I remember when I was a young lad and the first time I stepped on a Snap-on truck, and I said, man, I need some deep sockets. I need some deep impact sockets. And the guy goes, oh, yeah, right here. He hands me a set from 10 to 36.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, it's got them all. He goes, it's got everything you ever need, dude. And I'm like, man, how much? And this was, you understand, this was, 40 plus years ago.
$500.
He said, man, this is $600. And I'm like, wow. He goes, hey, but at $25 a week.
$20 a week.
And I'm like, wow, okay. So I buy it. I'm happy. I get into the shop. Next week I need something else.
Wrenches.
Oh, wait a minute, dude, unless you want to pay a little bit more, well, I don't have a little bit more. Well, now I'm stuck because I invested my money in those sockets. And oddly enough, 50 years later, I still have that set of sockets.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know that there's probably 8 or 10 of them that I've never touched? I've used them as press tools versus as sockets. And I tell these kids, dude, and maybe that's why I'm not a millionaire, or maybe that's why I'm not going to bury a guy. But I tell the kid, dude, buy what you need. And that's a hard part. I had a really good gig at my Ford dealership. I gave them X amount of money for a signing bonus to spend on my truck. They used that as a spine. Here, I would sell them $1,000 to spend on the Matco truck. Cost the dealership $700, but they gave the guy $1,000 to do it. And every one of those kids, I said, dude, okay. And me and the service manager or the shop foreman, Vinny, we worked up a little. Here's oil filters, here's this, here's that, because this is what the kids want to be doing. These kids came in with no tools.
But then they came on a truck and bought Oakley's T-shirts, jackets, and,
right,
and beef jerky.
Junk.
And they would buy, I want some glasses, I want the backpack, I want the shirt, I want the jacket. I said, dude, you got to invest here. This is what you need to buy. And then 2 weeks later, they're not there anymore. And I'm like, well, what happened? And it was,
hey, they look good.
Never bought any tool. He looked good. He looked the part, but he didn't buy any tools.
Just to divert for a second to tools, because I just watched Clay's video again tonight on a Snap-on truck, and they were talking about the Olight pen.
Yeah.
And they said, listen, it's a lot of money. It's $80 on the Snap-on truck. They said, but when you write with this pen, you'll never want to write with another pen. And it's got a super strong light at the end of it. Have you any experience with that light or pen?
No, not yet.
No, I haven't, but I've been looking at them.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you get a deal, let me know. We'll get
Yeah,
that.
I haven't ordered them yet. I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens. I don't jump right on the bandwagon.
I mean,
right
he was
away.
crowing about it weeks ago, maybe even a couple months ago, and now it's just kind of he revisited because the guy had like 3 or 4 of them, and he said, admittedly, look, it's a lot of money for a pen, and it's a light, and it's nice because it's in a smaller size, I guess, in something you could write with, which is nice, but I don't know, just curious, pique my
I
curiosity.
don't know. I haven't. I mean, I've seen them. I know what you're talking about. I haven't personally tried. Sometimes, and this is where people have a hard time understanding. Somebody might have the exclusive for 30, 60, 90 days.
Okay.
So I won't, like I said, I could probably get it, but I can't buy it at a price to resell,
All right. Yeah, I understand.
that type of way. Because they might have exclusive on it. I don't know.
Sure.
But the biggest problem, well, I don't even want to go down that road. That's not even,
That's for
I don't jump right away. The new air, I can't even say, I don't even know how to say this. The battery power Milwaukee
air chisel.
Yeah,
I know.
can't say air chisel, a striker or whatever.
Yeah,
they call it.
The impact hammer.
Yeah, however you want to say it.
I know they've been
Air does not go to it, but it's an air impact, air hammer.
Right.
I got guys jumping at it. They're going crazy, and I'm like, dude, let's just see what happens.
You got my attention, so as soon as you let me know.
Oh, what, on the battery powered air hammer?
Yes.
It's not going to be cheap.
Yeah, it ain't cheap, dude.
You're going to pay for that convenience for sure.
Yeah, I was watching a video, Murphy's Diesel, and he has one, and he was using it to break through ice.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty neat, but I don't know about the money.
Right,
$600.
Yeah. Well, it's close to $1,000 on a tool truck. So,
wow.
Well, that's just the tool, no batteries.
That's just
looking.
cool.
That's what I'm saying. That's it ain't. It was funny. I had stopped off at Home Depot to get
to make
wire
more friends.
wheel.
To make more friends with the penny machine.
No. Well, that's
You're buying penny stuff.
No,
Day labor.
No, come on.
Day labor.
Yeah. No, I had to get one of my shops needed, a grinding and a wire wheel, and of course I tell them, I said, dude, you can walk across the street to Home Depot and get it and save yourself money. Oh no, dude, just next time, just bring it next week. All right, whatever. You want to pay me? No problem. So I go in, I come out, and this guy goes, hey, I need to talk to you. I'm like, all right, dude, what do you want? He's like, hey, man, I need one of those impacts to take off tires, battery ones. I said, okay, yeah, they got them right here in the store. He goes, no, I want to buy it from you. And I said,
Warranty?
really? I said, okay. He goes, what? You don't think I can afford it? And I said, no, dude, I'm just telling you. I pulled it off the shelf. I said, here it is. He goes, I said, it's a Milwaukee. And I said, yeah, it's what I carry with the Milwaukee on the truck. And he goes, well, I could buy that here. And I'm like, that's what I said.
That's what I just said.
And he's like, well, and I said, well, here. I said, I told him my price, and I told him the price there. And he's like, oh. But the only difference is that I take payments.
Right.
Home Depot, and he's like, oh, well, can we set up payment? I said, I don't even know you. I don't even work at my shop. And I said, dude, you want to buy it? Here's the price.
Right.
Well, I can get it for this. I said, dude, you're waiting. This is why I was telling you you're wasting my time.
Right. Hey guys, I gotta jump ship. My battery's going to die.
Okay, well, let's
All
send
right,
us
Lewis,
out.
take us out, and we'll talk amongst ourselves.
All right. Hold on. Let me put
I'm
Brian up.
jumping out of here too,
And
guys.
if you
So
find
good
that
night.
video, send it to me.
Yeah, I will.
Happy,
Yep.
happy Father's Day, everybody. Or I guess it's Father's Day weekend coming up. So
Yep.
see y'all later.
You too.
All right. Take it
All
easy.
right, Paul. All right, everybody. Please check out our YouTube channel, Plan in Traffic, and please become a subscriber and like, share, and all that good stuff. And we will see you next week, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Later.
See ya.